Welcome to The Art of Show, where we feature the people who are creating amazing stories for kids. Join us as we chat with children's book illustrators and authors, storyboardists, animators, and more. Now, their art might be for kids, but aren't we all just kids at heart? Here's your host, Brandon.
Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to The Art of Show. This is episode number 8, and we are actually doing something a little bit different. So we're not talking with an illustrator or an author this week. We're actually talking with an animator. You may or may not have heard a couple of the movies that he has animated on. Those have included Tangled, Big Hero 6, Frozen, and most recently Moana, which I saw over the Thanksgiving break with my family, and it was absolutely amazing. I loved it. You guys should check it out. I've been listening to the soundtrack ever since then. But we're talking with Malcon Pierce this week, and he's been kind of doing the media junket recently, and he's actually a supervising animator. And the way they kind of work inside the studios is a supervising animator will take over a different character. So the actual character Moana, the hero of the story, the heroine, I guess, he led a group of animators to animate her. So everything you saw on screen where she was acting, he had to play into that. So it was a blast getting to chat with him. He's actually from my kind of neck of the woods, down in Mobile, Alabama. Then he worked at Blue Sky Studios with Ice Age. Then he started at Disney, and he actually worked with the legendary Glen Keane, who we talked about a little bit. If you don't know Glen's work, if you've seen basically any Disney movie going back to Beauty and the Beast, he was pretty involved with it, especially when it was 2D animated. He's one of the big-time legends at Disney. So we actually worked with him on Tangled. Tangled was the last movie that Glen was with Disney, but then he has gone on and he has worked with Frozen. He animated, he supervised the animation of the big snow monster as well as the trolls. And then, like we said on Moana, he was the supervising animator on Moana. So it's really cool. If you guys don't know really what it looks like to animate a movie, he kind of talks about that process from what happens from visual development and when they have a character and what happens once they receive that character. They have to build all kinds of stuff. He actually talked about having to make a muscle system potentially, having to do rigging and really cool programs they built to animate our hair and stuff. So really cool stuff once you get into the 3D world. But I hope you guys enjoy it. It's a little bit different. Let me know if you like it. And without further ado, let's chat with Malcon about Moana. Well, so we're just talking, you're originally from Alabama, and now you're on the West Coast at Disney. How did you start with animation and art, and how did that kind of become a part of your life?
Art has always been a part of, I think, what I've liked to do. I think my dad was an artist in, I think, many ways. He could draw really well, but he was kind of like an engineer.
Yeah.
It's like he could always kind of just make anything that he needed he was kind of like MacGyver.
That's cool.
And so that was always a huge inspiration just to push creativity. And I was interested in drawing and being an animator from a very young age. And when I was in high school, I started to venture into more musical arts. Okay. And I went to college for that, and then kind of lost my inspiration for that about a year in to college. Just, I think, wanting to do that as a career kind of faded. Okay. So I started taking visual arts classes again, and I took a advertisement design class and really liked it, and then decided that I could take that more seriously, and then went to the Art Institute and kind of found my way from there. But I did venture into, outside of visual arts for a big chunk of my life. But I do feel like that was good to do that because I feel like I kind of expanded my range. Yeah. Is what, inspires me. But I think most artists, even if they don't do this professionally, have always had that, seed of inspiration growing up. Yeah. Well, so I feel like I'm the same.
Yeah. What was it about animation that kind of drew you that direction?
It was just fun. It seemed fun. And, I love movies, going to see movies, just entertaining. You get to shut everything else out and just sit there and watch this story and get wrapped up in it. But I feel like animation for me just always seemed like a fun thing to do.
Yeah. That's cool. So you were with Real FX and Blue Sky, is that right, before Disney?
Yep.
What was it like that kind of first day? Was it Tangled? Was that the first movie that you were on?
Yeah.
What was it like that kind of first day walking in to Disney as an animator?
It was very scary. I think there's like a lot of heritage and talent here that, you don't want to mess up.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of, it's kind of like overwhelming in the best sense. And I think what was the best part of that first day experience is me and my office mate, Henry Sanchez, we both had worked at Blue Sky previously and started the same day at Disney. And you have an orientation over on the studio lot, which is across the street. It's not in the animation building. And it's just to orientate or to get oriented to the whole company.
Yeah.
And then once that was finished, Henry and I wandered over to the animation building. We kind of wrapped early, so we had our badges so we could get into, past security at this point. So we went over and kind of just wandered around the building, and we made our way to the animation building. And when we walked in the animation building, there was a group of guys standing talking, and it turned out to be, it was Glen Keane and John Cars and Patrick Osborne. And we introduced ourselves, and, it was like the warmth we felt our first day, it was so great. Everybody that works here is so just humble, and everybody's here just wanting to make amazing movies and do the best artwork they can. And I think that was one thing that I really, and still do, I really think that's what I love about this place most, is just the family atmosphere. And I think outside of the walls, it's easy to kind of think that we've got this formula to make these movies, and everybody kind of does their own thing and is very, we're just trying to check the boxes. But it's really, John Carr said on Tangled that, we're really this little boutique studio that's just trying to prove ourselves each film, and get better every chance we get. But I really took that to heart, and that experience has definitely stayed in the back of my mind every day here.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I would kick myself if I didn't ask you with Tangle, what was it like working with Glen Keane?
That project has definitely changed how I view the craft. Being able to work that closely with someone that you looked up to for so long and still do was extremely rewarding and inspiring. And I feel like I'm still trying to chase down things he was, sharing with us. And but he had a way about him that could make everybody push themselves much harder than they ever thought they would. And it was really out of respect for him. I don't think, knowing Glenn was in the room, everybody definitely took another day and really made sure that, if they put something on the screen, that it was really worthy. And I feel like that mindset at the time was very important, because I think as a whole, the studio was really trying to, raise the bar for, themselves, but also try to make the best film they can. And he was a big part of that. And I think all of us that were on Tangled definitely still try and spread all of that knowledge and wisdom to the rest of the crew that, didn't have that experience.
Yeah.
So I think one thing he really brought was this idea of just sharing. He would say that, he got to work with the 9 old men, and he was the young guy, and they were sharing all that information. And and showing him the way. And now he's the old man, and we're the young, artist in the studio, and he's got a job, and he's got to share that information with us. And now I don't feel like an old man, or anywhere near to those guys, but I do feel a responsibility to take, all the lessons that he shared with us, and as best I can try and spread that, and I feel like that's one thing we try and do every project is kind of grow on what we've learned in the past. And so we're still trying to keep that alive.
Yeah.
He was definitely a big part of that culture.
Yeah, yeah. And so you're talking about kind of spreading the lessons that you've learned, and you've moved into animation supervisor role with Frozen. Is that right? Was the first time you were in that role?
Yep.
And
yes.
What character in Frozen were you?
I worked on the snow monster,
okay.
the marshmallow snow
yeah.
monster, and the rock trolls.
Okay, cool.
And then I was heading up the crowds and fixed team.
Really cool.
So yeah, that was an amazing project to be a part of.
Yeah, and so then with Moana, which has just come out and is amazing, you were the animation supervisor behind Moana. So for folks that may not know what that means, kind of what is your role like once you've kind of stepped into the supervisor role?
Sure. It kind of has two parts. So I rolled onto Moana about 2.5 years ago, and in the beginning, in pre-production, your job is to sort of get the character fully functional and ready for animation. And along that process, understand who this character is and what makes her tick. That way, whenever you get to production, the crew rolls on and you can, educate that. But early on, I get to work with some really good friends of mine here that are Bill Schwab, who's the character designer, and Chad Stubblefield, who is the head of modeling. And we've worked together on a couple films now. We worked together on Ralph and Frozen. So we kind of have developed a bit of a language between each other, and we can anticipate what each other likes and what they can bring to the table. And we really try to extract as much as we could from every angle with Moana. So early on, Bill, Chad, and I were working very hard on just trying to get her up and running. Bill is, he's amazing at really identifying what is the design of the character. Chad's amazing at telling what the design can be in the sculptural form and sort of identifying how that's going to work in 3D.
Yeah.
And I'm coming from it from an animation standpoint. I was really trying to push on range with the character and really trying to capture the sculptural quality of animation. So things like looking at her from every angle, every expression we would make, we would look at it from every angle we could and try and art direct as much as we could with the character in hopes that when an artist rolls on to animate a shot, they don't have to worry about the character not performing as best it can from all angles.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can art direct the character only from a few angles, and then you end up in trouble in animation because you maybe want to do a certain head angle because you're trying to hit this emotion, but the character doesn't look designed from that angle. So that's one thing I think that was a real success on this project, and all three of us were really pushing on that just to get, a real sculpturally sound character. And then, so we work on that, and we have a rigging team that rolls on, and Mike Navarro was the rigger for Moana, and Matt Schiller was the rigging supervisor, and he did a lot of work on her and Maui. And we focus a lot on anatomy, and Matt Schiller became an anatomy expert on this project. We were debating early on if we should make a muscle system for the show because, the characters aren't wearing much clothes, and we wanted to make sure that it felt real or believable underneath, the skin, like there was muscle and bone. And they made the call that we weren't going to develop a new muscle system, but instead we were going to sculpt every possible, articulation we could with the characters. So Matt Schiller and the gang did that, as well as modeling helped with that. But that's why the anatomy on her clavicles and her neck feels like they're incredibly rich. And so that was a huge undertaking. And then I wanted to make sure that we were using Moana's hair. Bill had designed this amazing hairstyle with Moana, and if you look at films like Little Mermaid and Pocahontas, the hair is such a huge part of the emotion in the scene. And so I wanted to really take a look at how we could get that kind of feeling with her hair in animation. So we developed a software called Quicksilver where we could put her hair in the scene to try to get an emotion and give that to the hair team and Tech Anim to use. And then also Tech Anim, they would do, just to give you a background on what they do, they do all of the hair simulation and the shot work, as well as cloth. And so they make everything look really nice. And so we developed Quicksilver. So there's a lot of like firsts for us on this project that we were trying to like really try and tackle. We've never done this before. Let's try to figure this out. And it felt like on this one in particular, like every step was like a brand new thing. And we kept just piling on to it. Anyway, that's kind of pre-production. And then once production starts, we had 90 animators on this project, which is the largest group I've ever worked with. Yeah. And Moana, I think all the characters are incredibly consistent in the movie because we spent a lot of time making sure that we didn't have to cheat a lot of things to get them art directed in animation. So the sculptural thing, that's where we get a huge payoff in that. But when the animators roll on, we do a lot of lectures and stuff to try to educate the crew because everybody had just rolled off Zootopia, which is a very different approach. Yeah. So we did a lot of talks on, I did one just on eyes from previous films and how can we use what we've learned from Tangled and Frozen and Big Hero 6 and apply them to Moana's eyes, just so we continue to, keep her feeling specific. And so we do these kind of talks, and they're pretty short because it's just a lot of information. So we do stuff like that. We have dailies with the directors, rounds where we're going around talking to each animator at their desk. So it's a lot more kind of influencing the crew, kind of helping them understand why we've made these decisions up until this point, and then they kind of run with it from there.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And then kind of as we're wrapping up, is there, as you think back, I guess on Moana, maybe a couple of years down the road, are there going to be some things that you'll keep as maybe teaching moments or just things, big lessons that you guys have learned that you'll use for movies for the future?
Absolutely. Every project we're discovering things, and we normally have this giant list of, man, what if we could do this? What if we do that? And we can never do all of it. Right. So we usually take whatever we like or learn from that and kind of pass it on to the next project. And so we're always building on what we did in the past. I think that's, for me, that's always sort of an evolving thing. What the inspiration behind why you're doing what you're doing. And identifying that, I think, is super important. At the beginning of Moana, it was very, and it still is, but I was really interested in sculpture, and like Richard McDonald's stuff had really intrigued me just at the impact from, you could be anywhere in the room and you can feel like the heartbeat of the character. And that was like a huge thing for me on this project, was just trying to capture that. And that really led me, that helped me make decisions all along the process. And I think each project, that inspiration evolves a little bit because you try that out and you try and implement all of that. And through that, you learn something that leads you into like the next thing. So I think as a studio, we're also doing that. We're also learning and re-inspiring ourselves from project to project. But I think that's important for any artist, try and find something that you can chase down. And normally as you're chasing it, you'll start to notice other things. You'll be like, all right, once I get this, I'm going to revisit it.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
That's cool. Well,
But, that's something that means a lot to me.
yeah, that's very cool. So you guys are on Wreck-It Ralph too, I'm guessing. Is that right now that you're working on?
Yeah. Yeah.
So as we're wrapping up, is there a way that folks can keep up with you and the work that you're working on, the great stuff you guys have coming down the pipe?
Yeah, I mean, I have a little presence on Twitter, and I try to do a lot of artwork, mainly personal stuff on Instagram. It's just my name for Instagram and Twitter. But the Disney animators, Instagram and Twitter is really great. It's actually ran by some of the animation crew.
Oh, cool.
So you can check out that. And that's probably the best way to see as a studio what we're up to, or as a department, really. So check that out. But if you're interested in what I'm working on, you can check out my Instagram.
Very cool. And your guys' mannequin challenge was a blast. I loved watching that.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. I missed it. I was so upset.
Oh, no.
I literally walked up right when they were like applauding when they had finished. I was doing a Moana presentation at the LA Film School, which is an amazing school. But yeah, they did it great. I love the Cheerios, Renato and Dave, and eating the cereal. And it's like, I still don't know how they did that.
Yeah, I was like, is this frozen? Like, what's going on? This is crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I appreciate your time. I know you're super busy, and Moana was amazing, which I'm sure you know, and it was a blast chatting with you.
Awesome. Likewise. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Hey guys, before you go, if you like what I'm getting to do here, having these amazing conversations with amazing people, the number one way that you can help support the Art of Show is by leaving a rating and review on iTunes. And if you go to Brandon Cullum, CULLUM, like man.com/review, they'll take you right to iTunes, and I'll let you leave it there. That helps support what I'm doing, as well as let other folks know about it. And I would greatly appreciate it. So until next time, I'll talk to you soon.